So, campfire songs.
Campfire songs.
You already know mine. You duetted it with me. We've sang it together more than once at this point.
That's true.
Time Marches On. Tracy Lawrence.
One of the best of all time, without a
Shout
doubt.
out to Yo.
Yeah, major shout out to Yo, dude.
Dude, his podcast rips, by the way.
It is incredible. Yeah.
Insane.
Yep. Unbelievable.
He's made me fall in love with a few other artists right now. Especially Gavin Adcock. That episode was hilarious.
I need to listen to that one.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Mine's, Time Marches On. That one has been huge for me since like falling in love with country music.
Yeah.
Which makes me think of mom and dad's barn out back behind the house. And, stepping on nails with my Crocs. And, that.
Vivid like that, man.
Yeah. A fun childhood and the unfun childhood too. I don't know. Just like a full story of life right there. And I don't know. I enjoy singing it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not great at singing it. But that's karaoke song. That's campfire song. I will sing that song any day.
100%. Yeah. I would say it's so hard to pick one because I have so many that are like to that caliber. You know what I mean? Where you have things that are tied to them. I think that the one that stands out pretty consistently, though, is Chevy Van by Waylon Jennings. You know that one? Mm-hmm. Dude. Because that song, like, I mean, it makes a great campfire song just because it's so easy. It's like, you know every word to the song after the first time you listen to it.
Oh, goodness.
Everybody, and even if you only know one part of it, everybody will at least sing that part.
Right.
But, like, dude, that song takes me back to, this is so crazy. My folks just got a lake house in Ashland, Nebraska that used to be owned by my best friend growing up's parents. It was his grandpa's cabin. And
so there's already history there.
Dude, like, and that history goes back to me being 10 years old, free range, like living every kid's dream, going and swimming across rivers and like having fights with actual rocks and sticks. Should have totally gotten way more injured than we did. But then coming back at, 3 o'clock in the morning, we would be playing hide and seek over 20 acres of forest. And, like, I mean, absolute liability. But then we all come back, and we're, like, pooped, we're tired, and we're hoping that we come back, and our parents still say that we have to leave, like that kind of thing, even though it's literally 3 o'clock in the morning.
Try to convince your parents that you could spend the night.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
I
we got really
so
good
much.
at that. But, dude, coming back to the cabin, I have vivid, like, 4K memories of walking around the side of the house to the back where there's this patio and there's a bar back there. And Chevy Van would be blasting. Like, you could hear it like 5 or 6 houses down on the other side of the lake.
Oh,
and you could hear it walking around the corner. And being 10 years old and just watching, and you just look, Chevy Van is blasting. Everybody is asleep outside. And I'm 10. I'm like, it's a really beautiful night. I mean, like, maybe I'll sleep outside too. Like, you have people sleeping on the bar.
You just have no idea what's going on.
Sleeping on the floor, on the patio, on the beach, like in the Adirondack chairs and stuff. I'm like, that looks fun. Like, what a great way to end your evening. Little did I know it, everybody was shit-faced. Like, consuming copious amounts of alcohol to the point where, like, it wasn't their decision to sleep outside. They just ended up out there.
Right.
But then as I keep growing up, and, it's so crazy the way that this turns into me being 16 with my buddy, and we're all sitting out at his bar, and we're, having beers at his bar. We're blasting Chevy Van, like, comes full circle. Then we got the house, and he came over, and I played it over the speakers, and we're just like sitting there, like reminiscing.
That's so great.
That, like, talk about a day one OG song right there. And then I, like, when I was 9 years old, first getting out and start playing guitar for people, that was a song that I'd sit at that bar and play for people.
Dude, I love that so much.
It's amazing, dude.
See, I don't like Time Marches On. I guess isn't really like that in depth for me. This was more of a personal song. It wasn't like attached to like other people as much. But like Tracy Lawrence, his voice has always captured me with how he like sang that story. And I know he didn't write that one, but he sings it with like a full truth. And especially for the country songs that were going on that time, it was racy, man. Like,
right,
so racy.
100%.
He's calling out real life, which seems common now. But I think like it's kind of washed over with that song, and I've heard him talk about it. But it's like that song was ahead of its time in talking about real subjects. It really was. It was
Right.
not PG.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially for that era.
One of the things I love about that song is the more that you listen to it, you kind of grow up with that song. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness!
And like
yeah.
you're listening to it when you're 8 years old. You're like, yeah, brother runs in with the feathers on his head, stuff like that. And you're like, man, that totally applies. And then you're like, brother's wearing beads and he smokes a lot of dope. Like, what's dope? I don't care. I love the song.
Yeah.
And then you're like, and you get older. You're like, daddy's got a girlfriend in another town. You're like, oh shit, I didn't catch. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
oh my
no.
God, is that new?
It's crazy. And then like even talking like sister calls herself a sexy grandma at the end. Like you can't now. Like that's just a funny joke people could say anywhere. But back then, like. That got cut off radio stations for saying.
Did it really?
Oh my goodness!
No kidding. I didn't know that.
That song was racy. It really was.
Yeah. Huh.
You talk about songs like attached to like memories and people though.
Yeah.
It's not a country song, but like "Welcome to the Jungle," that song I remember like being 6 years old, and I was in my uncle's truck. You know, he's young dad, like in his early 30s, and I got my cousins here. They're about the same age as me, and my sister, and we're all just piled in this truck, and he has it turned up so loud you cannot hear yourself think. We're just blasting down like East Tennessee back roads.
Love it.
And he's like a very straight-faced man. Love him to death. But you'd see that song come on, and he just gets this little smirk. You know? He's like, he knows he's about to just crank it, and we're all, 4, 5, and 6 years old, sitting in that car about to scream it at the top of our lungs. He did it so intentionally.
Yeah.
But that was that for me. Was like perfectly attached to a memory, and that song still comes on, and I'm just like immediately flashed back to that little car seat.
Yeah, 100%, man. Dude, that's we could each go back and forth for literally hours and talk about songs that have that impact on us, and that's one thing that I think is so amazing. Not only with music in general, but especially with country music, like. Because you ask anybody else here around town, like, what's the song that does that for you? What are the songs that do that for you? And everybody's going to have similar answers. You know
my
what I mean?
goodness.
It's
and
so
unlimited of them, too.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could sit around a campfire, and everybody plays their campfire song, and you would not stop till the song comes up.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I mean, there's one more that comes to mind, and I'm really excited about this. I saw Josiah and the Bonnevilles. They are, so he's covering Jesus, etc.
Dude, I saw that with, was Richie Mitch the Coal Miners?
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome.
I'm so stoked.
Oh my God, I love Josiah, dude. I've been on a crazy Josiah gig. He's incredible.
Yeah, so he came out. I saw Philip Bowen, actually a few weeks before we met.
Really?
And he came out and sang a song with him, and it just blew me away. Like, I think that was just a last minute thing. They were both in town, and Philip had just opened for him, and so he kind of returned the favor of playing with him. And man, like one song there, and he had me captivated. It's crazy.
Love it.
It was awesome.
That's crazy.
And I relate to his stories so much. Like, he was working in a warehouse like last year.
Yeah.
He was literally working in a warehouse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And he's so open about like how his life goes. I appreciate that, just the raw honesty, of the boat he's in. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, like you just said, we take it back to like around the time that we met. Dude, first episode of the show, and it's where we're at, man. Like, we go back to,
was it November
30th was the day that we met, and that's so crazy. We're at Red Door.
Door.
I'm like, what's your name? And I swear to God, I thought you said Cooper. I swear I thought you said Cooper. I'm like, man, that's the first time I'm meeting another Cooper in Nashville. That's crazy.
That's
and then you put I give you my phone, and I think that I don't remember what it was, but yeah, but then I typed that, and then you typed Hooper Gerald's into my contacts.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh damn, cool name, but like, damn, I thought we were about to have a Cooper and Cooper situation.
Works
but honestly,
out now, man. Hoop and
fire,
Coop.
dude. I think it works out great, man. Hoop and Coop. That's awesome.
That night was very interesting too. I mean, I feel like that was I've been here for a while now. Right. I went to MTSU, and got my degree from there. So I've been in the Nashville area, and now I'm a homeowner, here outside of town. But like that night, that week, really, because that show I was just telling you about, and then showing up to Whiskey Jam, seeing Wyatt play, like all of that was that same week, and led up to us meeting.
Right.
We wrote that song title down.
Right.
That night. I mean, and I didn't really think about it again until I got back from deploying.
Yeah.
You know, being gone with the Air Force and then
Mm-hmm.
getting back, and you were one of the first text messages I sent. I
Yeah.
had that note tucked away.
Yeah. I got that text. I'm like, man, there was something about that. Because at that point, you came back like, the middle of the way through December, which is so crazy going back to, November 30th. That was the night that some pretty crazy shit went down with me.
Mm-hmm.
And we both, very pivotal moments of both of our lives, with me going to New Jersey for a short stint, but then you're halfway across the freaking world.
Yeah.
And then you come back and we're able to get together, and then we catch up and, kind of talk about everything that was going on between us. And we both got stories to tell, and we're sitting smoking Qatari Marlboro Reds in my garage, and you're hand rolling cigarettes, and we're drinking whiskey, and we're standing on my patio, and we're talking about, all right, what's bigger in Texas? What really is bigger in Texas? Like, what are the things that are bigger in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this spitball, like ideas every 5 seconds. And that was the first time I've had that experience since I moved here, dude. Like,
really?
it was amazing. Yeah. Like, that was, I think that's a moment that just about every Nashville songwriter goes through, is where, like, when you get together with somebody and it really clicks and it really fires off, and like, that was awesome, dude.
I think it's really different too. Like, you can go and get in a room with somebody who's way ahead of you. And I've had a few of those moments where it's like, man, of course it's going to click, because this guy has been doing it for 20 years and he's a pro, and he can, make me look like I can just sit there and not talk, and then the song's going to be good.
Yeah.
But in those moments when it's with a peer, like, y'all are sitting there, y'all are both, fresh as, fruit, we're brand new to town. We're not even getting brown on our bananas yet.
I haven't heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. But the honest truth, like, we barely know each other, and we sit down, and immediately we're on the same wavelength. Like, that doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't, dude.
That's how you find, like, your crew. And I'd had a few of those moments. That's how I, like, met Hunter.
Right.
Like, a few of those that just click and it just works. But nothing like that, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
That was our second time ever hanging out.
Yeah.
And it felt more like a hangout than it did a write, but that song just came out so good.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great question too, that I want to ask you, is like, what was your first moment while you were in Nashville? Like, whether it happened at MTSU or like while you were in town, like doing something music related in Nashville. What was the moment that led to you going, like, this town knows what's up? Like, this is the real deal. I want to be a part of this.
I think I have a few of those. Everybody has a bunch of those, but like the first real one that just like punches me in the face was MTSU for sure. So there's a Chris Young cafe at MTSU. He dedicated the school, and like the first event he played, and man, everybody was there. Like, if like who the people are behind the scenes, which was what I was learning about at the time. I didn't know before this, but that first like little bit, I was in class literally just learning these people's names. And it was like, presidents at Sony and Warner and all these big places are all just hanging out at MTSU with a bunch of freshmen. And Chris Young's playing that night, and they've got students that are a few years ahead of me that are, already cutting their teeth, that are, opening for him. I'm like, that's real. Like, that's an option. I can go do that. That's so cool.
Right. And
then, like, I'm meeting those students who had opened, getting to write songs with them. Like, that was cool. I thought those people were, a big step for me, and then now going to see their success separately from me, and then finding those people that want to sing the songs I write with them. That's like, but I can just picture it. Like, Chris Young's like 5 feet away,
Right.
At the time, like, that's like the first like big deal I'd got,
Yeah.
So like big, scenario I'd seen where I realized like, oh man, I can go say hi to these people, that I've listened to on the radio, I can go shake their hand and talk to them now, and they're going to treat me like a normal person.
Right.
So that one really,
That's amazing.
Chris Young Cafe.
Chris Young Cafe. How about that, man? Dude, I have a couple of moments that happened, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So the first one was the very first time I came to Nashville, like as an adult, because I lived here when I was like 2-3 years old for a little stint. But my first time coming here, I was 21, and I was with my best buddy Tyler Anthony from back home in Gretna, Nebraska, and we'd both been kind of doing the thing where we're going and playing shows, playing different types of gigs, stuff like that, and having a blast. And people are like, you got to go to Nashville. You got to go check out Nashville. So I'm like,
they were right.
Yeah, they were right. And we get to town. Like, I just remember going over, when you're on 24 East and you're kind of coming over the top of the hill, and you look and you see, the Batman building and all the rest of town. And like, man, the big city, that's where it happens. Like, man, that's awesome. So we go and we check into our hotel, and we have our guitars with us, and we go up the street. We're staying at the Best Western right there off Division Street, like right down the road from.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right, a couple down from Live Oak at Tin Roof. But we scootered over to whatever pizza place is right on the corner, up, past the old Live Oak now. And then we went there. That was actually after this happened. But we went further down, across from Red Door. Didn't even know what Red Door was. Like, I had no idea the significance of it. But we're like looking for somewhere to eat first, or to grab a beer, something like that. And we come across a Slider House. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's go in the Slider House. So we go in there. We have our guitars with us. Like, just because we do. Like, whatever. We're cosplaying Nashville people. But we walk in there, and we each get a beer. And the bartender's standing behind the bar. And there's a stage in the corner, and nobody's playing on it. So Tyler, being Tyler's always been the one to just like go for it for whatever. He's always been, that half of our thing we had going on.
Man, that's like,
so he's
you
like
need people like that.
100%. And that's why I'm so grateful for him. And honestly, that's why I'm so grateful that this happened, because he's like, hey, we're both like super stoked. He's like, hey, I see that you have the stage over there and nobody's playing. Well, we have our guitars. Can we get up there? And I'm like, that'd be awesome. And the bartender's like, that's not how it works around here. And then she walks away, and we look at each other like, fuck Nashville, dude. Oh, is this what this is like? Like, people really like this shit? Like, absolutely not. And then, we went and did the Country Music Hall of Fame and went on Broadway, did Broadway. Because we were just here for a few days.
You dated Broadway for a night, yeah.
Yeah, but then I left, and I'm like, I really didn't see anything. Like, yeah, it was cool, but I didn't see anything really worth staying here for, because I had no connections here. I had one person we were supposed to meet with, and he ended up getting sick, so we were just tourists for those 3 days.
Yeah, that's a very different feeling, man.
Yeah, we're on the road, back to Nebraska, and I'm like, I don't know, didn't fall in love with it, wasn't impressed. But then what did make me fall in love with it was when I came here for a writer's retreat with all these guys from this group that we're in. And it was awesome. None of us had met each other in person. We're like, let's get an Airbnb in Nashville for a week. Let's see what happens. We know some people in town. Like, we could really possibly do something.
That's awesome.
Well, my good buddy Will Cullen, who is the guy who goes and play, like, mind if I sit here? Like, that guy, can I sit here? Plays in their songs. Well,
I just wish I could have been there for his first time doing that.
Oh, dude, I know. But this was before that really took off, because he was like, he had established a presence on TikTok and stuff like that. He was by far the most successful person in the group, but he's an awesome guy. Still, absolutely. We've gotten to be buddies since I moved here, and since before that. He's a legendary guy. But anyways, I asked him, hey, can you pick me up from the airport? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So, like, that way I didn't have to get an Uber or whatever. And I get there.
So, was he already living here at the time?
Yeah, so he was living here. Okay. He went to Belmont.
Oh, yeah.
But I told him, yeah, I'm just going to get here this time, like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, cool. I'll be there in a little bit. Text him when I get off the plane. Like, I'll be here. He's like, sweet, I'm pulling in soon. And we go, and he's like, what's up? And I grab my little suitcase, my guitar, and throw it in the back. And I get into the shotgun seat, and we pull out of the arrivals terminal at B&A. He fucking floors it, like, flying out of there. Like, I'm like, what is happening? Like, we're going like 80 miles an hour in traffic. Like, what are we doing? And Will he has both hands on the wheel, just skirting around. He's like, well, I'm supposed to play at Jason Aldean's on Broadway in 20 minutes, but I forgot my mic and my guitar, whatever. So we got to go back to my apartment, and my apartment's 15 minutes away from here and 15 minutes away from Aldean's, so we got to go make some good time. And I'm like, oh, God, okay. So we go, and this is to play the 10 to 2 shift upstairs acoustic duo set at Aldean's. And
That's a lot of trouble, man. That's a lot of trouble.
We get his stuff. He's like, there's a bike in there. We get to his apartment. There's a bike in there. Go grab it. And I'm like, okay. We get there. We jump in. I jump into his passenger seat while he's still driving. And we go and park in some parking lot over there. And I'm like, do you have to pay for it? He's like, I don't care. It'll be fine. Then we go up to Aldean's. And by the time we get there, somehow miraculously, and this is such a Will thing, all of this chaos, and by the time he gets started, it is 10 a.m. on the nose.
No kidding.
He pulled it off. And I'm already like, awesome, cool. Well, he's playing with this girl, Rachel Schumacher, who she and I have gotten to be friends here as well. She's a legend. But they're playing, and as they're up there just kind of doing their thing, people are filling in. You know, it's 10 a.m., but it's Aldean's at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. And
what time of year is this?
July.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it was, I mean, dude, by, 11 noon, there's like, 100 people up there.
Heck yeah.
And they're just all hanging out, but they're there to, hang out and see Broadway artists or Broadway singers, see people doing the thing.
Yeah.
Well, they start going and they're just doing their thing, singing. They sound amazing, and they once they get towards the end of their set, Will's like, "Coop, do you want to sing one?" I'm like, "I mean, sure, why not?" So, mind you, at this point, I decided, because I had a gig the night before, and it was way out. So I had to drive like 3 hours there, go play it. Drove 3 hours back the same night.
Back in Nebraska.
In Nebraska, and my buddy Gabe stayed with me, and we stayed up all night at my house, and then he drove me because it was like a 6 a.m. flight. So I had been up for 24 hours at this point, and I'm like, I'm a day straight rolling, hanging out with you guys, but sure, I'll get up here, and I sang Tennessee Whiskey with Will, and I mean, everybody just like ate it up, and they ate it up in a way that I hadn't experienced before, because I was kind of playing the kind of gigs at that time where I was going around and doing a lot of them, and people get fired up for Tennessee Whiskey, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like they're just in the crowd, they're singing along, drinking, whatever. But this time when I did it, as soon as I started singing, people kind of turned around and they started watching. So it isn't just 100 people hanging out, drinking, screaming the song because they know it. Everybody was watching. And that was the first time that had really happened, and especially with it happening in Nashville,
right?
I'm like, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But then the moment
a little bit of serotonin, more than you'd ever had.
Exactly.
Up on stage.
You get that little that little dopamine hit that just it hits you just right.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really did it for me, because I was thinking after that, as soon as that happened, I'm like, I need to be here. Like, this is unlike anything that I've experienced so far, and that's after singing one song on Broadway. Like, compared to the rest of the Nashville experience.
Which is so funny, like, thinking now as, like, you live here full time, you play shows, like, that's your thing, you know? You go on tour, you get to play these shows everywhere, and everybody talks about, like, don't get stuck in the Broadway trap. Like, that's that real thing. And everybody, but for that to be your first, like, your eye-opener.
Right.
And then, like, to understand that even there on Broadway, where it can become a trap, like, it can still be the start of that feeling.
100%.
That's so cool.
It was amazing, and you're totally right. You hit the nail on the head. It's people have all different experiences that happen in Nashville that makes them fall in love with the town. And that week was full of them, but that was the first one where I fell in love with the town at the same time that I kind of realized, like, if this is what I can do after being in Nashville for 3 hours, like, what else could happen? And then we're here for an entire week, and then the moment where it was like, all right, ASAP. We got to figure out how I'm getting here. It was when I was with Dustin Polk. Lathan wasn't 21 yet. Dustin Polk, George William Thomas, Wesco. And we're all great group of guys. And we're all hanging out. We had just went to Roberts. We went to a couple places on Broadway. This is after we had just had a connection with somebody who works for somebody within Sony's publishing stuff.
Nice.
And that was like a real conversation that we had with like somebody who was doing it, and that opened up a new door. And then we're in the thing on the way back, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm already sold. What would I have to do to be able to sustain being here? and I'm talking to our Uber driver, and I'm like, how do you like doing Uber? He's like, I've been doing it for a year, and I absolutely love it. I do it 3 to 4 days a week, choose my own hours. There's a game to it, but you end up figuring it out. And he's like, I'm a producer. Like, I'm a producer, and this is just kind of paying the bills in the meantime. But it's plenty enough to be able to do it. I'm like, would you recommend it to somebody? He's like, dude, you'd be great at it, because we're talking back and forth. And he's like, if you're into conversations and meeting all sorts of people and being engaging, things like that, and you get a grip on it, like, it's the best job in the world. And I'm like, okay, well, now I know what's up with Broadway, what's up with the behind the scenes stuff with writing, producing for people, all the type of people that are here, and now I have something that I can do for work. Get me here.
Yeah, that leads me
that's like, all right, now it's Nashville or bust,
that leads me to 2 questions right there.
Yeah.
So, like, we talked about this, before the camera started rolling, of like, what's your day job? Like, how do you make this a reality?
Right.
Because, like, there are obviously those people where it starts and immediately, it is your full-time everything, and you can live off of it. But for most people, including us, like, that's not the reality. So, like, how do you make this a reality now?
Right.
Being here.
Which is like, dude, that has been the number one struggle with being here. And I think that that's the same way for everybody, besides the networking pressure and things like that. And still, coming from a place where I'm from, which, small town Nebraska, like, it's a pretty serious change of pace that you got to get used to. But above everything, you got to pay the rent. And Uber was fine. I think that if I would have stuck with it, it would have ended up, kind of being sustainable. But then I got in a hit and run, and insurance didn't cover it, and neither did Uber's insurance. So that goes back to us using a Sawzall to take part of my bumper off and zip tie it back together.
Was that the first time? Was that the first time you came over here?
That was the first time I came over here. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Which is so crazy. But yeah,
I just bought that Sawzall too, because I installed the dog door for Bear.
That's awesome.
Yes, I have a dog named Bear.
Yeah, and he is the coolest dog.
And he looks like a bear.
Yeah, he looks like a bear. He's good. He's a good boy.
You
a good boy, Bear? Yeah, he started wagging his tail. He's like, yeah, I'm a good boy. So what ended up happening after that is I'm like, okay, I got to figure something out. That obviously isn't working. I'm trying to think. I don't think that between because I did that as soon as I got here, and then I did it up to the end of January. And I'm trying to remember what I did after January, because I think that I just kind of coasted for a couple of months.
Well, you mentioned
because I was just kind of able to
playing some shows back home during that time,
which I did do that, and I mean it was scraping for bare bones. I was trying to figure something out.
Honestly, that's the first dream, is scraping for bare bones. Like, that's like the first, like,
right.
I can do this. Even if I'm going into the hole,
right.
It's worth doing. Right. To cut your teeth, man.
Yeah,
because so common. Like, you hear everybody talk about this too. Like, especially like the older guys now talk about, like, oh, everybody gets their start on TikTok and they never played a real show, and then they make it big or get their deal, and they've never played a real show. Well, you got both. You got both sides of that. You got to do the TikTok, and you got to go tour the bars.
True.
So you really cut your teeth in the modern era, like the internet, like showing your chops online and playing in the small bars in Nebraska and here and in 10 Mile, Tennessee.
Right.
And, like, you've gotten both of it. So I'm kind of curious what your perspective is. Like, is that part, like the bars, how necessary do you think that is for being a performer?
Dude, I think that is such an interesting thing, because that used to be the game. That used to be the only way to go about it. Like, you go and you play the bars, and you start hoping that you can get into clubs, put a band together, and you just get a van and go. Which honestly, a lot of me wishes that we could go back to that type of thing. And some people do that, and I have all the respect and you talk about the hustle,
there's
like
a
the
lot
road
places
dogs
to play too.
Right, 100%. I mean, everywhere. There's all sorts of places to play everywhere. But in terms of having to have it, it taught me a lot, man. I think that it taught me a lot about being a performer, being on stage, being an entertainer, 100%, especially after growing up in that kind of background. But what I'm trying to get at is, I don't think that it's a necessity anymore, because especially in the social media age, you have people that are coming up that have never played on stage before. You hear Craig Campbell does these bits on it. Because he's whatever label he's affiliated with, he obviously has ties to where it's those conversations that are happening, and label's like, yeah, we got this new guy. And he's like, oh, where'd you get him from? He's like, TikTok. And he's like, where has he played? He's like, he hasn't played a show.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a show? Like, what? Where's he going to play? Like, arenas? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
Well, I mean, I could name a bunch of artists off the top that's actually happened with.
Exactly.
Like, the first one that comes to mind is Bailey Zimmerman. Like,
100%. And dude, look at the performer Bailey Zimmerman is.
He's
He's a weapon, dude. He's unbelievable. Like, seriously. So I think that what that means is that it isn't a necessity, but if that's going to be the route you're going to go, you better be a dog, dude.
Yeah.
You better be able to get on that. And I think that we're seeing a lot of success from people that are able to do that. And there isn't anybody that I can think of, especially that I would want to say just outright, like, oh, well, they can't do it because they don't have that experience. But like, I don't know. It does get me really excited about the kind of new dynamic that's coming with all these artists that are coming from nowhere but social media, and seeing the type of performances that they're bringing. But I mean, yeah, Bailey Zimmerman, Vincent Mason, if I remember right, I don't think he played out a lot before he started going off. And if he did, then like I guess I just didn't hear about it. But now he's opening for Luke Bryan. And
yeah,
he looks and sounds killer, man.
Oh man, he's got chops.
Crushing it. Yeah, sounds amazing. And there's other people that are in that same position, I know for sure. But I mean, at the end of the day, it obviously isn't a necessity. But if you're gonna bank on that and bank on having that ability to just up and go out and start playing, like, you better be good at it. It's like, otherwise if you're gonna be skipping that many rungs in the ladder, your feet are gonna be dangling, dude. You're gonna be left in a spot where you can't improve because you have so many things that you got to focus on. And if you get thrown into that mix of not being able to kind of hold your own and hold on to the rocket ship while it's taking off,
well,
I
mean, excuse me. Bailey even talked about that some, like in multiple interviews. He was on Bobby Bones talking about that. He like had performance coaches, so he really used his resources properly. And I think like that investment paid off for sure, because now, like, looking at him, he's so comfortable up there, and he follows a really strict schedule. And I've seen that be really helpful for, younger guys. But like for you, man, I mean, even thinking like, what was that, 2 months ago? Last month you were on that tour in Nebraska?
Yeah. A little over a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably singing shows some nights where you've already lost your voice from the show before, and like in those bar shows you get like, did you notice like seeing that, going through that, like, have you learned to be comfortable with like the crappy shows, the rough ones, the hard ones?
Dude. All of my shows, I mean, none of them are crappy. I mean, obviously, there's something that came out of every one of them. But, like, I don't like to think of those shows as crappy shows. I like to think of them as background noise shows. And I know that every artist and performer knows what I'm talking about, where you are literally background noise. You get zero engagement from anybody. It's like playing here at the airport. You know what I mean? You're just background noise. Like, you're just kind of part of the element there. And there are parts of that where it's like, that's cool. I'm contributing to somebody else's experience. If I'm playing like a wedding, like a cocktail hour or something like that, I don't want to be in the spotlight then. That's not my deal. But there are some times where, if you're playing somewhere new, or like if you got a reference from somebody, say like, come play this place, or I have this thing going on, come play it, and then you go and do it, and you're promised something, and that doesn't come true. It doesn't deliver. And you're like, so firstly, that comes up as really discouraging, because you're like, man, people really just don't like I don't have that ability to get people riled up, that I kind of thought that I did. That's the way that it's been working out for some of these other gigs. And that gets discouraging. But then when you start doing that, then you realize, well, if I'm going to be background noise, you're going to pay me $1,200 to pay at your wedding. You know what I mean? Right. That's where the turn happens, where you realize, okay, I'm going to be dynamic, and I'm going to take what I have, which is to be an entertainer, to be a good performer, to provide a different experience every time I play. Yeah. And you understand how to capitalize on that, while also bringing that experience to people and having people remember your face and saying, hey, I have this thing going on. I have this bar or this venue, or I want you to open up for this person. And you never, like, that's happened every show. I swear it's happened just like 85% of my shows have led to another show.
That's the best,
Which
man.
is that is the best. That's honestly what feels like it's all about. And I think that is something that you miss out on while you if you are coming from the social media thing is you get launched into superstardom, and before you know it, you go from just being somebody making videos in your bedroom to everybody wants to be your best friend. And I think that like if that were to happen to me personally, that would be hard, man. Like not having that network experience and being able to deal with people, not only, being out there and being the guy with your name on the marquee who, a lot of people are there to see, and you're talking to the fans, you're talking to the people that are there, you're being personable, being friendly, things like that. But you're also a business owner at the end of the day. You got to be
Yeah.
able to hold your own kind of. You got to be able to foot
Well,
yourself.
and you got 2 full-time jobs. You've got the
Yeah.
performing. Well, really 3. You got the performing, you got the songwriting, and you've also got the networking. That networking is
You're
a
your own
full-time
booking
job.
agent, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a full-time job.
Right.
It is completely like if you're not pouring into that just as much as you're performing or writing songs, you're not going to have anybody to show them to. You're not going to have anywhere to play them. You're not going to have, the next step. Because the big part of networking is meeting that next person, and climbing that next rung. So, like you said, skipping, rungs with social media, I feel like that's one thing on social media. You can either get really good at networking because of it, or you can miss it completely.
True.
And for you, and for me, and like for most of our friends, we've seen it work. The networking has been the good thing that's come from social media. Like, look at that group chat we're in.
Yeah.
And like the writers retreat that you're just talking about, like that came from networking on social media.
True.
And it
100%.
really played in your favor. But you also got to, think of the artists that hasn't happened for, and they didn't start the networking until after they got discovered. So now they don't know who to call when, they have a disagreement with their label or their publisher, or they don't know who to call when, they need 3 more musicians to go on tour with them, next week because Luke Bryan called,
Yeah.
like that's hard, So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to get your take on both sides,
Sure, man.
It seems,
That's another thing that I really enjoyed about being here in Nashville, especially as an artist, is you take the people like I'm that guy from Gretna, Nebraska. That me and Tyler Anthony, like, it was amazing, dude. Like we kind of ran it. Like anybody that had a place where you could set up and play, like they wanted us. And for Tyler, they still want him. That's his thing, is he's got his band and he's playing all over the Midwest and all over Nebraska. Like people know Tyler, they want to go see Tyler. And people knew me, they want to go see me. My going away show, we sold a good chunk of tickets. It was a blast. You kind of feel like you're at the top of the world.
Yeah.
Well, then you come here and you meet that guy for
fish, man.
Boise, Idaho, for Colorado Springs, Colorado, for Waco, Texas. Like that guy who got their start doing that, Green Bay. Like I have a buddy of mine who he kind of ran the Green Bay bar scene.
Yeah.
And you take every single one of those people and you put them all together and you have Nashville.
Right.
You have the
Nashville
green
is
people in Nashville.
Nashville is it's the great American melting pot, but even under a smaller microscope.
Yeah.
It's like people from literally all over, including other countries too. I think people forget that so much.
Oh, dude.
That one of my first writes in a studio or in a writing space in Nashville was with a guy from Australia. It was such a cool experience, but I'd never written with somebody from another country before.
Yeah.
That was a total new world.
Wow.
Because we have so much in common, but we also have these spaces that don't overlap at all. All of a sudden we get to talk about them and we get to put them in song. I thought that was really cool.
That is amazing.
But so Nashville is that melting pot all over again, but for a specific theme. I think it's pretty cool.
Right.
I grew up in Knoxville, which isn't a small city.
Right.
It's one of the biggest in Tennessee. It's the third
what's the population of Knoxville?
Over 400,000.
Really?
It's I mean, if you take the surrounding area, it's bigger than that. Probably 650 ish.
That's about Omaha.
I mean, it's University of Tennessee, which is over 20,000. I think it's 26,000 alone for the university. used to back in the old days, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Neyland Stadium would fill up for the football games. It was the fourth biggest city in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it literally went Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, and then Neyland Stadium inside of Knoxville because it was that big.
Yeah.
So
crazy. That's really interesting because the same thing goes for Memorial Stadium at University of Nebraska.
Yeah.
Like, dude, they've been crushing it these last few games there, and more people have been inclined because, like, dude, Nebraska football has been in such a drought. Like, I could talk about that all day, but specifically, dude, people have been so amped.
I'm on top of the world with UT too.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, it's like, as a Nebraska fan and somebody who grew up around it, like most people from Nebraska can say they grew up watching Nebraska football. I haven't been this excited about it in a long time, and that's showing by the amount of people that are showing up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Like, Memorial Stadium is the most population dense area in the state of Nebraska by like 8-fold, dude. Like, it's insane. You're packing, because I mean, Memorial Stadium holds like 90,000 people, and all of the areas, it's college, it's, you know, University of Nebraska, it's all that surrounding area. People there tailgating and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
most people that are already there. You have 400,000 people within 3 square miles.
Yeah,
like,
but imagine you think about that though, in like that population dense area. Like, I grew up pretty close. I mean, I was in South Knoxville. I was right over the river from downtown. You know, so I was on. I mean, it's pretty rural in South Knoxville. I don't know. There's a lot of suburbs now, but growing up there, like, grew up on, I mean, 10 acres with cows and stuff, right over the river. You know, everybody was exactly like me. Like, you know, when you come here and nobody is. Everybody's different, and it really is. It's such a unique place because of that. But I don't know. I find it like every day in Nashville, when you actually like take a step in the right direction, when you get that yes, which is 1 in 1,000, but it's worth it because, you know, like, you're getting those steps with people and learning, like, with people that aren't like you. I don't know. You get a new experience every single time. So,
awesome, dude.
I think with that, I think it's time for a pee break.
I was just about to say, I kind of got a piss, dude.
Piss break.
Piss break.
All right. This episode is brought to you by
Us!
I'm Hooper,
And I'm Cooper.
and we run a demo studio in the greater Nashville area.
We're both singer-songwriters here in town, and we completely understand the struggle of having music that you want to share at pitches and to show to your friends, but Nashville demos are really expensive.
So we've come up with a business model that will never change.
$50 acoustic demos, $100 full band demos, studio quality, the highest level production you can find.
If this is something that suits you, reach out to us at Hoop and Coop Demos on Instagram.
That's Hoop, the letter N as in Nancy, Coop, Demos.
On Instagram.
It was a good piss, dude.
That was a great piss. Did you remember to ash out your piss in the ashtray?
Crap. Y'all learn what that means when you're older. Dude, nothing beats taking a piss outside. Like, honestly.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That makes dudes say, what are other things make, like, pissing outside? Hell yeah.
Pissing outside, hell yeah.
That makes dudes say hell yeah.
Dude, a beer that's colder than you expect.
Dude, absolutely. Hell yeah.
Hell
beer in
yeah.
a frosty, cold mug.
Dude, starting a fire. Like a good
Dude,
one.
oh, hell
yeah.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Building something with 2 hands.
Yep.
Like, no instructions.
No instructions.
Dude.
Like putting together like
yeah.
a bed frame or something with no instructions.
Dude.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Dude. Phone, wallet, keys. Hell yeah. That that is dude core right there.
A koozie with a saying on it that just makes you laugh.
Hell yeah.
Dude.
That's awesome. When you're at the airport and you're going to pick somebody up at your a cell phone lot or something like that, but the cell phone lot is like right by where like the planes come in and stuff, and you open the door and you look up and you see and hear a plane coming in for landing right over you.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Let's get into can we come back to that in just 1 second?
Oh,
the airplanes, because
sure.
we have some airplane rabbit holes.
Okay, yeah. Well, we are gonna come back probably a later date to other things that make dudes say hell yeah.
Of course.
That's great. That's awesome.
I love it. I want one musician's hell yeah. What's like that one thing for you as a musician or performer or singer that makes you gives you that same hell yeah?
When you pick up a guitar off the shelf at like Carter Vintage or even like Guitar Center or somewhere like that, and it's a really nice guitar, and you play a G chord on it, and it's perfectly in tune.
Dude, you beat me to it.
Really?
Dude,
that's hell yeah, right?
Mine
there.
was like you go to tune your guitar and it's already in tune. Like that's where
that's
I was
like okay, that's
same
also hell yeah.
exact thing.
I feel like there's another one that I'm missing though. Like
Dude, when you sorry,
bonk.
When you find like a pick that like just randomly. That's like my favorite, like, because I find them in my car all the time. Because after a write, I just like throw them in the center console.
Yeah.
And I found, dude, the other day I found like 5 just like chilling under my coffee cup.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were there.
Yeah.
I guess I left the same coffee cup in my car for 2 or 3 days, and all of them had slid under it, and then I picked up the coffee cup. Which don't judge me for that. Everybody does that.
Everybody does that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I have like 4 or 5 travel mugs that I just.
Yeah. I don't even drink coffee, but I have like 5 Yetis that I just have on rotation for. Dude, that's you talk about keep a Yeti in the freezer, fill it up with ice, get it water straight out the Brita. Hell yeah, dude.
Oh my goodness.
That's hell yeah,
dude. Okay, so my family, we have this place on the lake. It was my grandmother's, and we've kept it up, and my mom has done incredible work to it. I'm very proud of my mom. My mom is incredible. She's a great businesswoman.
Your mom's amazing.
Oh, she's awesome.
Her orange cookies are like the best dessert I've ever had in my life, dude.
Oh my goodness.
So good.
But yeah, so we got this place at the lake. My grandmother got it, and my mom's kept it nice and made it nicer. And I've got this Yeti cup there. It's one of the little small Yetis, and I keep it in the freezer. The second I get there, every time I pull up to the lake, get that cup, put some ice in it, pour a little whiskey, pour a little water. Yeah. It's me a good hell yeah.
Oh, that's a big good hell yeah.
Yeah. So back to airplanes though.
Oh, absolutely back to airplanes.
We can always talk about airplanes.
We can always talk about airplanes. Okay, so let's get into this. What is your background with airplanes? Like, where does it start where you're like...
Where does it start, or what is my background?
I mean, well, I guess you could kind of lead one into the other.
Okay.
Because I think that if you like airplanes, there's like a moment or that like something you can go back to where you're like, airplanes?
Oh, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think I have the coolest of all time. So I'm the youngest of 5. There's a bunch of us, 4 boys and a girl. Well, my second oldest brother, he's a fighter pilot. Everybody say woohoo. That's freaking
so insane.
Awesome. Yeah. Flies,
mega hell yeah.
Flies fighters, super cool.
Like F-16s?
F-16.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's so cool.
Oh, he's a total badass.
Yeah,
I mean, he really is.
Like certified. That's like, that is about as badass
wrote
as
it in his 2nd grade journal. He wrote, I'm going to be a fitter pilot, because he did not spell
fitter. No way.
I'm going to be a fitter pilot. And he's done it.
Fitter pilot.
But so he was going through, like, he was getting his private pilot's license when I was in 5th and 6th grade. So 6th grade, him and his best friend, who were both at ROTC at UT, right, took me up in an airplane together and let me fly over Neyland Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like, okay, airplanes are like the coolest thing ever, you know?
Totally.
So that was like my introduction, getting to see my brother chase his dream, as a fighter pilot, fitter pilot, and getting to see him go through that journey. Well, I always wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps growing up, but I thought my eyes were too bad. And they were at the time, actually. By the time I was, 17 and could join, my eyes were too bad to be a pilot, so I kind of just gave up on it.
Really?
Yeah, I just moved on.
That sucks.
Well, they changed all of the requirements in those next 2 years, but I'd already started on the music path, because I'd found out when I was like, 14 or 15 that I couldn't join because of my eyes. So I started on the music path. I was going to a small school in Knoxville, and that's a whole other story. We'll talk so much more about like that part of the backstory another day. But going through that school and kept looking at like what can I do with music? COVID hit. I moved to the lake, living there by myself at 18 or 19. Working at the marina and sitting at home playing guitar all day. And in that process, I kind of rediscovered that I could be in the military, with my eyes. they changed the standards, and I was fine. So I joined the Air National Guard, and through the process, I did all my research. I read everything. Which, if you're gonna join the military, do your research, because like there's a job for everybody. If you have a dream job, you probably can get it. You know, and for me, I wanted to at least work on airplanes, and I discovered what a crew chief was, which travel with the airplane, you fix it if it breaks, do all the inspections. So I've been all over the world because of it. It's awesome. Like, it's the coolest job. But yeah, so like I handpicked that job, and I just told them I'd do anything to make that happen. I crushed my tests, you know, and I made it in there. And since then, I mean, I just got staff sergeant. Feel pretty good about that.
Awesome, man. Congrats.
So you can call me Sergeant Hoop now.
I will call you Sergeant Hoop. I'm gonna do it so much you're gonna hate it.
No, please. But yeah. So since then, I mean, I've been all over the world, man. I've got to travel so much. Alaska, Germany. Awesome. Man, just got back from the Middle East. I'm going to Germany again at some point. Man, but I've been all over the United States. Man, there's so many experiences. I've done flyovers for football games. I've, you know, got to be parts of air shows, and
awesome.
You know, oh my goodness,
cool, man.
So cool. Like, it's such a cool experience. Now I get to just getting to work on something, especially as old as the airplanes that I work on are. They're from the late 50s, early 60s. Like, they're ancient.
That's unreal. You were telling me about that.
Yeah, dude. They're that old. But
that's unbelievable.
But you work on them and you realize, like, that thing is more advanced than, you know, modern supercars.
Wild.
You know, like, and the technology that's in it is incredible. It's just like, it's wild. But then you touch it, you change the tires on it. You know, you're checking the engine oil on it. You're working on the hydraulic systems. You're working on the avionics. Then you get to see it fly.
Yeah.
You see it take off.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Hell yeah.
Oh, that is a hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, for the first time, like, seeing a plane I worked on take off without me in it, see it take off the runway, and like it gets off the ground, and then it starts just climbing, and like it just, like, my heart just starts like rising into my head, you know, and I feel like I'm floating.
Yeah, dude.
Well, then you get to fly in one that you fixed.
Oh, that's yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, you're trusting the work that you did on the airplane.
Wow.
That's like, it's a great feeling. It makes you realize, like, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the pinnacle of that, dude.
Yeah. So, but that's, I mean, joining the military in a roundabout way is what brought me to Nashville, because paid for my college. So you know, I'd been paying out of pocket previously for my degree, joined the military, went to MTSU, which I should have done in the first place, honestly. MTSU for audio production, music business. In the process of that, though, it got me a job too. So I was working full time. I had a full time income when I moved to Nashville, because I was working for the Guard here instead of in Knoxville at the time. So, and that's like what started me on this path. I had a full time job there. It was temporary. So when that ended, I had a bunch of money saved up because of it, because it paid way too good for someone my age. It was crazy. Like, that's one thing, like, the military, if you know what you're doing, especially with the Guard, you know, you can really take care of yourself. Yeah. So that's what I did. And then I started looking for internships in the music industry. Went and worked in radio. The radio stations no longer, I mean, they got bought out after I left. But yeah, I decided last July, after I became the youngest promotions director in Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was that work ethic I learned from the military. It's being here because of the military. Went and became a promotions director at that radio station. And then around July of last year, I found out I was deploying. And I was going to be on orders a little bit beforehand. So I left that job because I was going on a trip in August with the military beforehand. So left that job in July, went and traveled in August, got back, and just dove headfirst into songwriting, man. And I wouldn't have never done it if I didn't join the military.
Wow.
I mean, it was so full circle, because then I had to, you know, I met you and pretty much every connection that got me started doing this just because I took that jump.
Yeah.
You know, in between leaving my radio station job and deploying, I deployed, wrote more songs than I ever wrote in my entire life. And the cool part of that too, you know, I was touching airplanes every day, getting to do that dream that I'd had since I was a kid, writing songs in my free time. Um, and, I was doing this thing where I'd find people who had stories to tell that were over there that had never written songs before. And I'd write with them or write for them. They'd give me a story, and I'd get to put it into words and turn into some of the best songs I've ever written. I came back and got back from deployment, and man, we've been head first into this since.
Seriously, man.
Head first.
That's so crazy.
So
all because of planes.
all because of planes.
Because of planes, dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so interesting too. Like jumping back on that for a sec, because your interest in planes. Of course, I'm going back to planes. It's me. Like anybody that knows me is like, oh god, here goes Coop going back into freaking planes. But your interest in it stems mostly from the military. But for me, it comes from like it's always been like commercial aviation for me. Like obviously, fighter jets and KC-135s, aerial refueling, stuff like that. B-2s, like, oh my god, like unbelievable.
So cool.
Yeah, but for me, there was like, I know if my mom is probably listening to this, and she's gonna know exactly what I mean and how this is 100% true. When we lived in La Vista, Nebraska, when I was like 4, I had this little denim recliner, and up in the corner of the wall, we had a TV mounted with a VCR. And she got, I don't know where it was, but it was a VCR. It was a series of VCR tapes where there's this guy, Dave Hood, and he made this series for kids called There Goes or There Goes a. And there's like, there goes an airplane, or there goes a boat, there goes a fire truck. Like, kind of shows you, like, dude, you watch those, you're like, hell yeah. It's like, it's just stuff that goes, man. But I watched the one about planes, and that was like the last one that I watched. And the first thing that comes in, like they talk about, it starts in, oh my god, I remember this so vividly. He comes in on like a biplane, and he's up there with like some other pilot, and they're in a biplane, and the actual pilot goes, all right, Dave, it's all yours. Puts his hands up, and it's like, oh, whoa. The plane does like a barrel roll. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But then the next one, you just hear the sound of jet engines, and it's the SeaWorld Shamu livery Southwest. The Southwest 737 that looks like a killer whale.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes in on the plane. I remember being, whoa, oh my god. And then it goes like to the airport, and it's like showing how the baggage stuff works. And then it goes like on board, and there's a flight attendant, and she's like showing like, the way that it works. Like they show you to your seat, and like here's the stuff where they like make coffee and stuff. And I don't know what it was.
Did you have a crush on her?
I don't know if I had a crush on her, but I was also just like, dang, that's cool. And then that's why when my girlfriend said, she's like, yeah, I want to be a flight attendant. I'm like, oh my god, hell yeah. Oh, that goes deep. That goes deep. But then after that, they go to a UPS distribution thing, and that's when they go and they show like it's him standing next. It's Pilot Dave standing next to a big tall like landing gear thing, and it zooms out, and it's a 747, a UPS 747, and I'm like, oh, wow. And that was it. Because then what that turned into, my earliest memories of like, we used to fly all the time when I was a kid, like back and forth to Texas or all over while my dad was playing football. And I just remember, because back in the day, Southwest airplanes were brown. They were, all the 737s were brown. Well, then they started introducing the blue livery of it. And I just remember every time I went to the airport, I'm like, oh, we're going to get a blue plane. Oh, we get a blue plane. And then we never did until one day we got one of the brand spanking new blue planes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was so excited. I was like freaking 5. And I'm in the plane like, hell yeah, dude, I'm on a blue plane. And then that just like kind of, it just evolved. And now it's like the logistics factor of it. Because I'm always the one, whenever
it takes much to
it's
get
insane,
airplanes.
dude. Like you go to the airport, and I mean, I think that it's something that so many people look over. It's like you go to the airport and you realize this place has millions of people moving through it every year, and there's so much going on behind the scenes, and it's down to the minute the way that they have it worked out. And you look around, and it's like there's like you just look out on the runway, and there's a plane taking off. Well, then, you realize like, oh, the plane's going to Boston. And you realize that plane is full of people, just like the plane you're about to be on. You're like, what's everybody going to Boston for? Everybody's got their reason for going somewhere, and you're in a place full of people that are all going different places. And it's just such a cool, like, it's I don't know. It's like there's like an ephemeral type thing to it. You know what I mean? That's the thing that's
That's
always drawn me towards it.
Why is everybody going to Boston? That's a song title.
Dude, yeah.
Easily.
What
Write
are you
that
gonna?
down,
Well, I mean, whoever's in New England, like that steps on that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, legendary song. But whoever's going to Boston. Well, we also talked about, because I got stuck in St. Louis while I was working a job that I didn't talk about, where I was working for a major music supplier company, and it was kind of a nightmare. But I like people I work with. Not a great company, but I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to get I don't want to get a cease and desist after our first podcast episode.
Defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. But that was another like prime experience of like why I kind of love that traveling experience of like being on planes and stuff, because we're flying out of Omaha and our plane, a Southwest 737, actually, mind you, I'm holding my finger in the air. Actually, it was the New Mexico 1 livery, which is has the New Mexico flag on it. But all those okay, here's a little piece of advice. If any of you guys are flying Southwest and you're on a plane and you're about to board a plane that looks like a country's, or like looks like a state's flag, that you ain't getting anywhere, because those are the oldest planes in their fleet, and mechanical issues are like guaranteed to happen.
That's another
twice.
part.
It's happened to me twice.
Talked about logistics. Like the logistics of the people is crazy, but the logistics of actually getting the airplane in the air,
which is
the
insane.
inspections, the maintenance.
Right.
I mean, it is so expensive. First off,
yeah.
But like, so time consuming just to keep those planes like serviceable.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
they do. I mean, like Southwest operate. I don't even. My best guess is that Southwest probably operates like 700 737s.
Which is so many airplanes.
So like, you got to keep track of the maintenance, everything from painting the damn things for 700 of them. You're running 700 $100 million aircraft. Like, it's just, this is crazy. That's my hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing about that. That's
a pretty cool
I love
one.
thinking about that for sure.
Well,
I don't remember what I was getting at with that, but I guess it's not important. Just at the end of the day, airplanes.
Hell yeah. Well, pivot back to music a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask you, so our way of coming up and understanding how the music industry works is they're very different. I mean,
for sure.
I learned, sixth grade, legendary songwriter Kelly Lovelace explained to me what songwriting was. And from then I knew that portion and I knew where to look to learn it. Then I went to college for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was educated because people literally sat down and told me exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it from the inside out, and I knew I could go be a songwriter and, still be in the military and still pursue that, without having to perform every day.
Yeah.
Where your upbringing in the music industry is very different from that. And
pretty much the opposite.
Yeah. So how did you learn, what the jobs are in the music industry and that you still want to be an artist,
Well, I was 18 or 19 years old when I was talking about music or country music with somebody, and I'm like, man, it's so cool how they're able to write those songs. And then somebody's like, did you know that most people, most of them aren't the only writers on their songs, but a lot of people don't even write their own songs. I'm like, get out of here. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? That's a lie. And then I look it up and find out that all of George Strait's number ones, except for I think one or two, weren't written by him. Mm-hmm. And I saw that, I'm like, what?
And that's why I'm a Dean Dillon fan.
Dude, okay, so that's perfect. That's exactly goes into what I was gonna say. So at that point I'd kind of known, but the furthest extent that I really knew, because at that point I just loved the songs. I'm playing and singing the songs. I love the people that are singing the songs. I was much more so focused on that, on the performance side of it, the recording side of it, and I didn't really have a ton of insight under the backstory and the way that it worked. And then I watched the Dean Dillon documentary.
Really?
And that's how long it took, dude. That was really how long it took for me to kind of have an understanding of how that works. But watching that, I'm like, I just remember thinking that's crazy. At first I'm like, oh, he's the one-off guy who just wrote a bunch of songs for people. And it's like, no, dude. There's more of them than you can. You know even more of them than I do as a songwriter.
Oh my goodness!
But I just think about the heavy hitters.
Those.
Yeah. Ashley Gorley, Charlie Handsome, the big dogs, and that was where I learned. That was about the same time I learned who Ashley Gorley was.
Oh,
and looked up that, and that was How?
mind-boggling.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And that
He's
was
still
what kind
so young too. Like,
Wait, how old is he?
he's early 40s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, he's
That's
got
incredible.
dozens of number ones left in him.
Okay, we ran into a little bit of a technical difficulty. My phone ran out of video storage. That's okay.
That's what happens on first episodes, man.
First episodes. It happens.
Work the kinks out. But
yeah. But well, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Hoop and Coop.
Hope you enjoyed us just chatting away.
Hell yeah.
Keep looking forward to us. We're probably gonna have some guests on here.
Absolutely.
You can find us at Hoop and Coop on
Instagram,
on
TikTok,
Instagram,
everywhere.
all the socials.
And hopefully this will make its way to Spotify.
Yeah. See you later.